Before any dismantling, drain the fuel oil from the fuel oil high pressure pipes. Confirm that the oil flow has stopped before continuing. The fuel oil high pressure pipe may be provided with a protective outer pipe or with flexible steel wire braided hoses. See Instruction Book Volume 2, Chapters 901 and 909. Using a hook spanner, loosen the union nut. Using a spanner, loosen the coupling pieces fitted on each end of the high pressure pipe. Remove the high pressure pipe. Take care not to damage the high pressure pipe seatings. Disconnect the return oil pipe from the fuel valve. Mount protective plastic plugs in or on all high pressure seatings. Unscrew the retaining nuts and remove the spring housings. Remove the fuel valve from the cylinder cover using the lifting tool if the valve sticks. Thoroughly clean the fuel valve bore in the cylinder cover. Clean off any carbon deposits in the fuel valve bore with a carbon cutter. If marks are found on the seating in the bore, recondition the seating with a seating face cutter. Finally, grind the seating with a grinding mandrel and a grinding compound, for example carborundum number 200. After milling and grinding, thoroughly clean the bore and seating and check again that there are no signs of damage on the seating. After reconditioning the seating in the bore and thoroughly cleaning both bore and seating, fit new O-rings on a new or overhaul fuel valve which has just been pressure tested and lubricate with molybdenum disulfide. Carefully mount the valve in the cylinder cover. To ensure that over-tightening has not taken place, check that the locking and indicating pins have not been bent or broken off. In the event of over-tightening, mount a new spring housing. We recommend that the calibration of new and especially old spring housings be checked before they are mounted on the engine or on the fuel valve test rig. Mount the spring housings and retaining nuts. Tighten the nuts until the top face of the pressure disc is flush with the top face of the spring housing. Reconnect the return oil pipe to the fuel valve. Using the hook spanner, tighten the union nut. Close the fuel oil drain valve. Turn on the fuel oil supply. Slide type fuel valves which have been in service on the engine must be disassembled and cleaned before pressure testing, as otherwise the results of the pressure testing will be inaccurate. Pay particular attention to the cleaning of the cut-off slide and the nozzle. When overhauling fuel valves, Handle all parts with care and keep them clean. Careful handling applies particularly to the spindle guide and cut-off slide, as any rough handling of these components may cause them to malfunction. Do not clean the fuel nozzle with a rotating steel brush, as this may damage the spray hose. If cleaning with diesel oil or the like is insufficient, use emery paper to clean the spray holes. Using the special tool, set up the fuel valve on the plane of a drilling machine. Before disassembling the fuel valve, measure distance A, as this measurement is used later during reassembling. Mount the special tool to protect the fuel valve nozzle. Press down the handle of the drilling machine to compress the spring of the thrust spindle. This will relieve the pressure on the threads of the union nut and thereby prevent seizure. Using a hook spanner, loosen the union nut. Remove the sealing rings from the valve head and valve housing. Remove the non-return valve, thrust spindle and spindle guide. Remove and discard all sealing rings. Clean all parts in gas oil and wipe them dry with clean, non-fluffy rags. Examine all seating surfaces of the valve head, thrust spindle and valve housing. If necessary, grind the seating surfaces with the grinding mandrels and carborundum number 500. Use the milling tool if more serious damage has occurred on the seating surface for the fuel oil high pressure pipe. Loosen the screw and press the spindle and stop ring downwards. Then retighten the screw. The diameter of the seating surface must not exceed the value stated in Procedure 909/6 in Volume 2 of the instruction book. After grinding and milling, clean the parts in gas oil and wipe them dry with clean, non-fluffy rags. The non-return valve and spindle guide should be sent to an MAN B&W diesel service centre or authorised repair shop for overhaul. If this is not possible, the parts may be overhauled as described in the next sequence in this film. Set up the spindle guide in a bench vise provided with soft jaws and disassemble the spindle guide with a brass mandrel and a hammer. Do not attempt to remove the fuel nozzle before the spindle guide has been disassembled, as such action may damage the cut-off slide. The thrust piece, spindle and spindle guide are matched parts and therefore must not be replaced individually. To keep the matched parts together, disassemble only one spindle guide at a time. Dismount the fuel nozzle using the pulling tool.